In this video, I'm going to go over my favorite Atari 5200 games. I have another video where I did my 2600 games. This one was the next generation Atari. Let's go. This first one was Gremlins. It was a tie-in to the popular 80s movie. You had to take the Gremlins and save the planet. This was considered really high-end 5200 graphics at the time. So there is the friendly Mugway, and then I have to wait for the Gremlins to come out, which you can see I've defeated. And basically, there you go, there's some Gremlins. Uh-oh, the Mugways turn bad if they touch the water or the light, and so you have to then kill them. Didn't make sense considering that, you know, in the movie they were so friendly at first and all that. Uh-oh, no, don't let him get wet. Oh no, he's gonna turn bad. Oh, that's right. If he touches water, he splits, and then yeah, that's right. Water makes them copy, and then yeah, exactly. Now this next game is called Centipede, and Centipede was a great arcade game, and they actually did a pretty good job when they made it come to the 5200. I really kind of felt like they captured it pretty well. Now, they did have a version of this on the 2600, and so this isn't much of a step up from the 2600, but it's not bad. You know, you're still playing the game. Here comes the Centipede. You got, you know, the spider, and you're on the bottom with your, like, laser shooting it up, and it creates mushrooms whenever you, like, get a piece of a Centipede going. They slowly work their way around. It gets harder as it comes down. I love this game. Actually, probably played this game for like 100 hours as a kid. Okay, this next game is called Hero, and basically it was also out in the 2600. This is the 5200 version where they made the game a little bit better. And Hero is basically about this guy who's kind of got like he can blow things up, and he's got like a little helicopter pack, and he's got to go around and save people. Oh, there's a man who needs to be saved. You need to be saved? Yeah? Okay, and it wasn't much of a game. It came out basically at the end of the Atari 2600 days, and then when they upgraded to the 5200, they came out with the same game, but they changed the graphics and made it a little bit nicer. This next Atari 5200 game is Pitfall 2. Pitfall 1 was a great 2600 game, so they came in with a new, improved one. Instead of him just jumping over one pit every time, now he could go underwater, he could swim. There were more layers to this Activision game. It was still the same thing, you know, pitfall, avoid the pitfalls, but now instead of just being a pit, it was a lot of pitfalls. Here he is getting the balloon to fly away to get to the higher level. I've got to avoid the bats. It was a much, much better game than the first Pitfall, although I gotta be honest, the first Pitfall is like a personal favorite of mine because it was just so simple. And this one has multi-levels. The next game is Donkey Kong, and of course Donkey Kong was a great, great arcade game, and they did release it on the Atari 2600, and it was okay. Actually, this is very similar to the 2600. The thing that is better about this one is that it's just slightly smoother. Get to the second one, prepare to get to the third one, and prepare to jump, and then we got to get ready. And then there was different levels. There was this level where you had to jump onto the conveyor belts, which to me was always really, really hard. Here, no, don't let the barrel come down. Go, up, great. And then to the left, get to the next one, quick. No, I'm not gonna make it. Oh, dang it. I gotta run back and get the hammer. I died. Okay, so this one is called Rescue on Fractalus, and it's like a 3D polygon graphic game. This game was kind of confusing to me. I used to play it with my cousin who was really into it, and he would always try to teach me how it works. I didn't get it. You're basically in like a cockpit, and you're just sort of like, it's trying to be shooting on a planet. It was, I guess maybe because Star Wars was popular, people were like, oh, you got to figure out how to put yourself in a cockpit. It felt like it was trying to be a flight simulator, like combat shooter, but I didn't really ever feel like I was behind the wheel of it. I like the more two-dimensional ones and the three-dimensional ones. Now, the next one was also one of my favorites. It was called Pole Position, and it came out in the Atari 2600, and I loved it. And then when they brought it out in the 5200 and improved it, it was so much better, and I loved the Pole Position in this one. I'm racing along. You got to avoid the other cars. In the arcade version of this, in the coin ops, you would sit down and have a steering wheel and a pedal. In this particular one, I loved the details. It's funny is I look at this and it's so simple now, but this was like an upgrade from the 2600, which I used to play, and I was like, wow, this is so much more advanced. I loved it. It was so worth the money. I played this for hundreds and hundreds of hours. This is called Kicks, and I liked it because it's simple, two-dimensional. It's like Tetris before Tetris. You had all of these weird objects. You're that thing moving, and you create these lines, which then create squares and rectangles. And the idea is to cover as much ground as you can, creating multiple squares and rectangles, but you can't be touched by these weird lasery things, otherwise you die. And as you can see, there are a couple of them coming across the wire. If it catches up to you on the wire, then that's no good. The idea was to cover as much ground as you can to put it in rectangles and squares and shapes without them catching you. And I can get to this. It'll cover the left side. Awesome. I'm really enclosing that thing up. Okay, the next 5200 game that I really liked was called Vanguard. It was a great shoot 'em up. It actually used to have great music back in the day too, and it's a flying sort of asteroid-y game, but I always liked it because it felt really plush. It had a lot going on. Atari tried to make Asteroids, which was okay, but not a great shooter game. This to me was the best of the shooter games that the Atari 2600 and 5200 were making. I thought, in fact, when I would look at this game, I'd be like, oh my god, there's so much going on, I can't even keep up with everything. Because you can't touch anything, you don't want to blow up by hitting those tanks, you got to shoot all the aliens. I actually was just like, what a great game. This had so much going for it. I played this a long time as a kid. And I even played the arcade version, which is basically similar to this. And the last one is actually Miss Pac Man. Now, everyone knows the great arcade game Pac Man, and then out came Miss Pac Man. So they came out with the 2600 a version of Miss Pac-Man that wasn't that good. So they came out in the 5200 and they tried to improve it. They made the board actually match the Mrs. Pac-Man boards, as you can see here. And it was a much better game. It had much more of the feel of the real coin-operated game. That was like a big complaint people had. Like, you recreated Pac-Man, but you didn't make it as close to Pac-Man as you could make it. So, and the 2600. So making it like better on the 5200 which is this, was so much better. Intruder alert, intruder alert.